I don't know.
Why was she masturbating in a cave? What was that scene supposed to do? What were we supposed to be feeling? Carson, we have the biggest news of the year that just
don't know
dropped.
if that's necessarily true, but go ahead.
It is the most important news
I'm pretty
in
sure
the
it
history of this podcast.
I promise you it's not.
No, it is. And that is that the USA is currently winning in their league for the World Cup. That is the biggest news in the podcast history. I don't give a fuck about soccer, but I give a fuck about the USA, and we kicked those Australian asses as they deserved.
To any of our Australian viewers, I
Fuck
greatly
you.
apologize. Oh, that's not where I was
You're right, cunts.
heading. Wow. Okay, he went full Billy Butcher on you. I'm so sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, do not heed anything of what Brandon says. He is crazy.
USA.
This is the same person who thinks Tron Ares is a good movie, guys. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
USA.
God.
I don't give a fuck about soccer. I don't give a fuck about football. I don't give a fuck about sports.
But I
give
am
a fuck
patriotic.
about America. The second the USA won their first game, I was hype, and then they won this game, and I'm following that shit. I don't watch soccer, but I watch this soccer. I watch us dominate the world, because people always complain, oh, well, why are you the world champions when you win, like, the basketball thing or the Super Bowl or whatever? Because those are only, like, national sports, which, like, fine, whatever. You want to compete against us? I guarantee we'll still kick your asses. But this is us finally showing our superiority to the rest of the world.
This is really
it's
weird.
very poetic because it's the 250th anniversary of the United States this year. It's actually a big deal.
If there's any year they should win, it should be on like their historic holidays. So like
Correct.
the 50th, they're going to win.
It's not only the
years.
It's not only the 250. It's also we're hosting the World Cup, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
And this would be our first World Cup win ever. I don't know if you realize, we have never won the World Cup before.
Honestly, kind of makes sense. Let's be honest. We're America.
Yeah, I'm not entirely disagreeing with you, but I mean...
We have skills that are better suited elsewhere when it comes to sports. I don't think that soccer was exactly our forte compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, again, we won the gold medal in basketball because we're the only country that really cares about basketball. We
Correct.
also, I think, are one of the few countries that even have American football teams, hence the name American football. So, yeah, we're showing our dominance in the international sport.
The NFL's trying to branch out. I don't know if they're trying to make more teams, but they're trying to branch out to go internationally with some of their games. That's why last year they did go to certain places. But I have no idea if they're what they're trying to do or what their angle is, other than just like outreach of like getting more people involved in the games.
Yeah, no, they've had international games in the past, but they're typically our own teams playing, like, in Germany, with
Correct.
certain exceptions of, like, scrimmage games against, like, other countries. But, like, most other countries don't have football teams.
Right.
Like,
right.
they just don't. So we're finally getting to show the world on the international stage, not just in the Olympics, because the United States kills it in the Olympics every year, but in the world sport, the singular world sport, we are dominating. It's the biggest news in this podcast history, as huge football or soccer fans.
Yeah, so like I said, it really means nothing to me or to this podcast or to us, but go USA, I guess. Congratulations.
On an actual note of what we care about, on what you thought we were going to be talking about, what you thought I was leading into, is Shrek 5 trailer dropped.
I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill Universal.
Here's the thing. Before we even get into our thoughts on the Shrek 5 trailer, that movie doesn't even come out until June of 2027.
Yeah.
What is with movies with these extended trailer releases and extended marketing? Like, I genuinely don't see the benefit to it. People are not going to be thinking about a trailer that was released a year ago. You start your marketing campaign 4 to 5 months in advance. You push a bunch of content out, and people will go see the movie. I understand for like an Avengers Doomsday. I mean, I don't like the Avengers Doomsday marketing campaign, but I understand it more than a Shrek 5. Mind you, we got a teaser trailer for this, 5-6 months ago? And then we're now getting another, I guess it's technically titled a teaser trailer, but I think it was like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So it's like closer to a full trailer.
When something's big enough, it like deserves like its like year-long marketing stint or whatever, or like a year-out tease. Oppenheimer did that. Odyssey did that. Doomsday's obviously doing that. Like when a movie's big enough in pop culture, it has earned the right to probably have as far out in advance. This is Shrek 5. Mind you, nobody really liked Shrek 4 all that much.
I was going to say, okay. I could not tell you a single thing. I've seen every Shrek movie. Could not tell you a single thing that happened in Shrek 4 to save my life. I could give you Shrek 1, 2, probably 3, but Shrek 4, I know I watched it.
I just want you to know that the weather outside is now in my like mood of how we're going to talk about Shrek 5 right now. It's stark, it's gray, it's depressing. Because this is just the truth. I don't want Shrek 5 anymore. If you would ask me 2 years ago when they said that they would have made Shrek 5, I would have been all over it. I love the Shrek franchise. It was such a big part of my childhood and influence. I acknowledge that films like, Shrek 3 is not good. I acknowledge that Shrek Forever After may not be great, but Shreks 1 and 2 are some of the greatest animated films in the history of animated films. I think they're incredible. They really changed the game for how certain animated films can be seen and portrayed in certain light. So that being said, when they announced that Shrek 5 was happening, I was excited. And then I saw the little teaser they gave at the beginning of December. It was earlier this December.
It was around that. Yeah, it was around that. Like I said, it was like 4 or 5 months ago, at least.
Somewhere around then. And I lost all faith in this movie because they are tackling things that Shrek would have tackled in its day, which is outside the norm. They might have some like modern, trope, jokes, humor, whatever involved in it. Sure. But they wouldn't have necessarily gone as far as to now we have Gingy twerking with gumdrop butt cheeks, which I don't think is necessarily what I want. And look, people can complain all they want. The animation looks fine.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's terrible.
No, let me get to this. The animation looks fine if Shrek was never invented.
Yeah.
Because this is a completely different character, remodel design, and it just doesn't match. It doesn't feel like Shrek. And it's funny because as much as I hate AI, a video came across my Instagram the other day of somebody, I think I may have even I sent it to you. Maybe I did. They did a literal remodel of the trailer, and they just had AI fix Shrek's like face and all of it. It is the same animation quality. It looks fantastic, but it looks like the actual design for what Shrek was supposed to be.
See,
and not
that's the
whatever.
Sad part is like, I hate AI. I hate AI in creative fields. I am going to be outspoken about that till the ends of time. It's sad when your company does such a bad job of animating it that there are people out there that could make a logical argument that the AI looks better than it. Like that just shows how terrible. Because here's my thing. Shrek looks bad. He does. You know who looks atrocious and actually like suicide-inducingly bad? Donkey. Donkey
bad.
Looks like he took a bunch of Ozempic. And what is like why? What is he doing?
It's also funny because nobody complained when Puss in Boots changed its animation style. But that's also because
it wasn't like this, though.
It wasn't like this. Like, Puss still looked like Puss in Boots. They just changed, like, the artistic style of how the film itself was shot and how, like, the action was handled. Now, if their argument was, well, we were trying to do the same thing for Shrek, that's great, but you didn't do that. You completely redesigned your character. And it's funny because, like, nobody would really be this pissy if it wasn't, like, so, like, subtle yet drastic at the same time with their design choice. Like, I almost want to look up a photo right now. I'm actually going to do that just because I want to look at this one more time and just see how stupid this looks.
It's such a, like, slap in the face to Shrek fans, because here's the thing about Shrek. I love Shrek. I have a fun time with Shrek. I'm not as high on Shrek as a lot of people, just because it's not, like, what I grew up with as much as, like, a How to Train Your Dragon or something like that, which I would put up there in, like, top favorite movies of all time. But I think, above all else, Shrek holds up better than a lot of animated movies, both in quality of writing and things like that, but also in quality of animation. I think that movie looks fantastic for the day and for today. So the fact that they feel the need to not only change it, to up-res it, which, like, okay, up-res it, that's fine.
That's fine.
But like you said, you're fundamentally changing the character designs. Donkey is not a twig. Donkey is a short, little, stouted, chubby little boy. Why does he look like a goddamn twig?
Yeah, I
get that Shrek is older now, and I get that, the wrinkles and stuff like that are to show age. I understand that. It just doesn't... I don't need to see Shrek's pores. I don't. Like, I don't need to see... Like, that's not what I'm looking for out of a Shrek movie.
That's also what nobody's, like, saying here. They're literally saying that it's not even just that. Like, the resolution on a character is fine. Hell, we're talking about a movie later today with animation that, even since, 2020 onward, a company that has made as photorealistic animation where you can see every individual pore on somebody's face or every single blade of grass as detailed as possibly can. Like, we're talking about animation in a day where that's okay. And that's honestly, especially with a company like Pixar, I'm not saying so much DreamWorks, is the normal. But then you move into something like this where it's like, it's not even that they're upping the resolution. They are changing the fundamentals of what these characters look like. They sound like the characters. They act like the characters, but they certainly are not the Shrek characters. Exactly. Thank you, Weather, for queuing in. That is the perfect time for it to queue in. Not my Shrek is all I'll say.
Yeah, I simply don't understand why they thought it was a good idea. And here's the thing. People complained when the first teaser released back in whenever it was, and they were valid. But at the same time, we really just saw Shrek's daughter Zendaya's character, and it didn't really give us a good idea of what our beloved characters were going to look like. Now that we know what our beloved characters are going to look like, I guess the only benefit to this coming out a year before the movie is maybe we'll get a Sonic situation where they got bullied so hard for how terrible Sonic looked that they'll change it. But here's the problem. Sonic is a once-in-a-generation event. I don't ever see a Sonic looking as bad as it did, getting reinvented to look perfect, mind you. Like, Sonic, that is the best character design you could ask for in a live-action Sonic movie. It looks phenomenal. I don't ever see that happening again. I don't think companies care anymore. I mean, it was shocking that they cared with Sonic.
I think I already read somewhere that they are, like, somebody already came out and said, like, hey, well, the reason we can't do Shrek the way he was is because the person, I don't know if the person who did him died, but because the same animators who worked on him then are not here anymore.
That shouldn't matter.
So they literally just can't. It shouldn't matter. But that's what I heard. And that's like a bullcrap, stupid reason
that's like
to like, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. And so I have a hard time with this trailer because it continues to it continues to sell me on the fact that this movie is just not going to be what I want it to be. And who knows, maybe in a year's time when this film does come out, it's actually good. Maybe it is. I'm never going to, exactly. Thank you, Weather. Thank you for understanding. I'm never going to say that a film is bad straight out of the gate, especially based off of a trailer. I'm never going to do that. And we're going to talk about something later today that might have been in the same vein. But, Shrek just means a lot to me. They're clearly not doing it justice. Either let the movie burn or just outright cancel your movie. I'd rather not see this objectively.
Yeah, we'll review it on the podcast when it comes out. We'll both be able to dress like Shrek in person. That'll be fun. I don't know.
It'll be like the Mike Myers skit when he went to Eddie Murphy's recognition ceremony, and he came when the Academy tells you to come to Eddie Murphy's recognition ceremony. The answer is evidently yes. And when they tell you you have to wear the Shrek makeup, the answer is also yes. It's really funny, but it's horrifying because you have Mike Myers just in the Shrek getup, but it looks horrifying.
Yeah.
It's just so disturbing. But yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, this trailer did nothing to get me excited. And speaking of trailers that did nothing to get me excited, the Hexed trailer released. It's a Disney movie.
Looks like it's animated okay. I mean,
it's an animated Disney movie. I got nothing out of this trailer other than it's going to be the definition of generic. That trailer was literally just like we're gonna do what every other thing has ever done ever in a movie.
It looks like Elio kind of reskinned, where it's this young kid discovering this hidden world where she's not as weird or this or that. Like, it literally felt like Elio just in a Disney non-Pixar film.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Well, and I know that there's the huge controversy that I'd assume you don't know about. But have you heard of a Disney show called Owl House before?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, so Owl House was a very popular Disney show back in the, I think, 2020s, something like that. It got canceled, and a lot of people were very upset about it. The author, or the creator of it has, like, disowned Disney and said a bunch of things online. And a lot of people speculate that they canceled Owl House in part to make Hexed, which is basically a very similar story in terms of girl discovers she has powers, goes to magical world. Now, here's my counter to that, and I know I might get hate online for saying this. I've watched the first season of Owl House. It's really good. I actually quite enjoy Owl House. But the fundamentals of the story of Hexed and Owl House are both also unoriginal. A person finding out they have powers and going off to a magical world, I understand that there's probably more similarities that I'm forgetting about, but, like, I don't get what people are so, like, oh my god, it's a direct copy-paste, because, like, I don't see it as a direct copy-paste, because, again, the concept of girl finds out she has powers, is an outcast, goes to magical world, and discovers herself. Elio did the same thing, which granted came out after Owl House, but, like, this has been a concept. Hell, Harry Potter is the same thing. Boy discovers he has powers, goes to magical world. Like, this has been a concept for decades at this point.
It's just a concept that's, like, you can't really say it's stolen anymore, because like, the concept you're also taking is, like, a broad concept built from, like, something that's already a broad concept in which I already said of kid discovering, has abilities, goes to magical place and learns a very valuable lesson. That's a broad topic that's involved in almost everything in medium, at least in some form nowadays. That's like newer or Disney or Pixar or I guess any of it. So I don't know. The trailer didn't sell me on anything. It looked fine. The animation looked, I guess, okay. The designs for some of the creatures look fine. I guess there was some pretty good action shots, like, as far as, like, abilities and skills that looked pretty cool. But, like, this is going to be about as generic goes, and I don't see it really being anything beyond that, admittingly.
Yeah, well, and we also have DreamWorks' Forgotten Island, which dropped a trailer, I think, 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
That also is about, granted, it's two friends who go to a different world, but, like, I don't know, like, I just feel like this is a trope that it's very, very difficult to do well anymore.
Yes.
Just because we've already had so many that have done it so well that, like, even if you do it well, it will almost always feel like a ripoff of those who came before. And I just think that's just... I'm excited to talk about both of them because I'm excited to talk about movies. But that's about as much I can say about it.
Well, and again, like, the Forgotten Lands, Worlds, what's it called again?
Forgotten Island, yeah, I think.
It doesn't matter. It's kind of like, you know, that it's like DreamWorks and Pixar have always copied each other to some degree in some regard. This one very much feels like a blatant ripoff of the Strange World movie that Disney did, and nobody even saw that or liked that. So how is Forgotten Island going to be the same way? You know?
Yeah. That's fair. We have one last trailer to talk about, which I've already told you this off camera. But it's really funny because it's the property that I'm the most excited for, but also the worst trailer of the week that we have to talk about. Anime trailers are always a hit or miss thing. I know you're obviously not very familiar with it, but we also got the Jujutsu Kaisen season. We also got the Jujutsu Kaisen season 4 trailer released this week. That trailer is fucking epic. But also Jujutsu Kaisen is epic. But Chainsaw Man is one of my favorite stories of all time. Like, I love Chainsaw Man. I've read all of part 1 of Chainsaw Man, which is why I'm gonna have to be very careful how I navigate talking about this trailer.
Sure.
But the Chainsaw Man trailer, I'm curious your thoughts. But as terrible of a trailer as I think it is, I also understand why it was the way it was, because I know what's to come. And it's very difficult to showcase in a trailer without spoiling.
Look, and again, we don't have to talk about this for too long. I get it if you don't want to spoil anything, so I can pretty much give what I thought about the trailer. Trailer was fine. It didn't give me anything really about the story. It didn't really tell me anything about where they're going. It just showed me clips of the characters, which honestly is something I kind of prefer. And I don't know if that's on purpose or if that's just because I don't understand Japanese. And so if there was anything said in it, I just didn't understand. That could have very well been the reason. But like, it just gave me enough to say, hey, there's some pretty cool action shots. I saw the one of Denji in full chainsaw gear, literally running across the side of a building. Like, it looks like there's going to be some pretty cool action. But honestly, even in the trailer, you barely see Denji. The only thing that I saw that was like significant in my mind that I was like, oh, that's different, is the United States.
Correct.
Is the United States flag, which in the New York City, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, that's new. That's not what I was expecting.
How much do you want me to tell you about the general synopsis of what this season of Chainsaw Man will be? Because
you can, but I mean, I don't really care. Either way, I'm going into it blind.
Yeah,
but you don't have to give me anything if you don't want to. In all fairness.
So I'll give you the title of this, and it might help put some things in context. This is the International Assassins arc. So that's why you have America and, spoiler alert, other countries coming in.
They're literally going to different places, hunting down various different. Yeah. Okay. No.
I guess I'll give you this. It's other countries coming to Japan to hunt Denji.
Oh, to hunt Denji. Oh, that's so much worse. Oh my god.
Dude, when I tell you that Reze arc is the last, how do we say this? Because without spoiling, Reze arc's the last arc with any happiness left in it.
That's like, there already wasn't really much happiness to begin.
Correct.
What do you mean?
Correct. It only gets sadder. This next arc is one of the best arcs. It depends on how much they cover of the Assassin's arc. I'd assume they'll cover all of it. I'm just gonna say this. Knowing where it goes, I am so curious to see where they end it. Cause holy shit, dude, the stuff that happens after this arc, I think this is only... I think to cover part 1... they might do 2 more seasons, or maybe, if they really want to stretch it, 2 more seasons and a movie. I think if they do that final arc as a movie, like they did with Reze, I think it'd be incredible. It wouldn't be as good. I just want to see it in theaters, admittedly, because of shit that happens. But it's going to be an unbelievably insane arc from an action, storytelling, everything perspective. And I am so excited because it's one of the few anime that we'll talk about week to week on this podcast.
I am excited. We'll see what happens. When does it drop? October?
I'm trying to remember. It's either October or it's next year. We're going to...
Anyway, the trailer didn't give me enough to where I could fully understand anything, which is honestly fine, but you gave me enough to where it's like, okay, I kind of get it now. People are hunting Denji.
No official release date, but it'll be in 2027.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Honestly, I don't know why I would have thought anything else anyway. Yeah,
I mean,
cool.
Yeah.
Fine trailer. Again, doesn't really give me much of anything. I'm sure if you're somebody who's read it.
Oh, yeah, no. It's very obvious what they were trying to be careful about. Like, I already gave you more than the trailer gave you, but not by much.
Sure.
Because the stuff that happens in this is going to be... It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool to see it animated. I'll leave it at that.
Sure.
But we don't have to wait to talk about something else that was interesting to see animated, because what's up, Nimrods? It's your boys back with another episode of the Nerdy Nimrods podcast, the only podcast on the internet where your two favorite Nimrods talk all things nerdy. I'm your host for today's episode, Brandon, aka Parrotfish, here with my forever co-host,
Carson, aka Juggernaut.
And on today's episode, we have two movies to talk about. We have Toy Story 5, the next Pixar movie, the next Toy Story movie. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it needless? Was it amazing? We'll get into that. We also have The Death of Robinhood, which is the newest Hugh Jackman movie, and an A24 movie. A24 movies are typically on the better end of recent movies, but they're also a production company, so they have varying levels of quality. I'm sure we'll talk about that when we talk about this movie. Yeah. Spoiler warning, I'll give that right out the gate. Spoiler warning, there will be timestamps in the description if you have not seen Toy Story, if you have not seen Death of Robinhood. We will get into spoilers right away. So, yeah. Carson, how you doing? Is my mic sounding good? You're taking your headset off. Am I sounding good?
No, I was just readjusting because it's very hot in my room, so I was just, readjusting my headset, making sure that
we can't have a repeat of last week, dude. I'm so upset about that.
Buddy, so for context, nobody knows really what happened. I kept taking my headset off because I heard a creaking, popping sound coming from Brandon, and it turns out that it was actually his mic that was doing that, and it wasn't my headset. Instead of saying something, I chose to stay silent, and so now Brandon may or may not, from last episode, have a pretty negative Disclosure Day review.
Yeah, the last 30 minutes of that episode, which is unfortunately the majority of our Disclosure Day review, was, I did the best I could, but I admit it was borderline unwatchable at times. It sounded pretty bad. I sincerely apologize. I'm just gonna say, though, I'm glad it was something like Disclosure Day, not like the Odyssey. I would have literally killed myself if we ruined our Odyssey review.
Hey, my review still remains untainted, and my thoughts are still better than Brandon. So go over and watch my thoughts, my review. It's a little better anyway.
Fuck you. But yeah, how are you doing, Carson? How's your week been?
Long, exhausting. I currently have the house to myself because people went on vacation. I chose to stay behind, watch the dogs, watch the frog, because apparently we have a frog that I have had no idea this whole time exists. But apparently we have a frog now, so that's exciting.
Love a surprise frog.
Rewatched Toy Stories 3 and 4. Let's see, what else did I do this week? That's pretty much it. Work and, pretty average week, all things considered.
Fair enough. Yeah, I have been, a lot of this week has been tied up in moving, or I should say getting ready to move. I'm not moving until August, so I still have about a month and a half left until I move. But I'm officially coming back to Florida. I've submitted my notice to vacate on my current apartment complex. I have talked to my team at work to move fully remote. I am hoping to sign a lease this weekend. Like, I am gearing up to officially, after 2 years, a little over 2 years, it'll be like 2 years in like 2 months, come back to the best state in the United States of America, Florida.
Illinois? New York City? How about Rhode Island?
I'd rather gargle nails than live in New York City. And I'm not kidding.
Nobody wants to live in New York. There's like some cities where it's unlivable.
I would
they're fun to be there, but you can't live there. California, Vegas, and New York City.
Carson,
I'm sorry, you just can't.
I'm going to tell you something, and you know me. We've known each other for fucking a decade at this point. You know me very well. I'm going to say something that only you're going to get. Yep. I'd rather live in San Francisco than New York City.
Yep, honestly valid. Honestly fair.
And you know me. You know how much weight that holds, because I don't...
Honestly valid.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been busy. It's been a mix of emotions. I admittedly don't love living in Virginia. I've had a hard time these past 2 years, but at the same time, it feels very weird to leave it because I've been here for 2 years. So yeah, it's been a weird mix of emotions, but I am... God, the amount of content stuff that we're going to be doing when I move back to Florida. We'll be in person. We'll be able to stare at each other. We'll have higher quality. It's going to be a whole new generation for the podcast that I literally could not be more excited for.
Whereas Brandon on his calendar has moving day with a smiley face on it. my calendar says freedom with a frowny face, goodbye, on it. So
Yeah, because I will be bothering Carson every single day. I will be forcing him into the gym. He will be recording with me every day. Like
not at the gym. That would be a really horrible combination.
Correct. But it's gonna be. I'm really excited. I'm actually really excited. But what I'm more excited for is to talk about these two movies this week, Carson. Again, we've had two movies. We're going to start with The Death of Robinhood and then kick it into our Toy Story 5 review. Yeah, I don't think we need any other preludes with that, Carson. I'll go ahead and kick it off to you. Do you want to give us your Death of Robinhood review?
So something I didn't realize about this film going into it, and I told Brandon about this after, was that Michael Sarnoski was the director of this film. He directed my favorite, just unapologetically, my favorite film of 2021, and that film was called Pig with Nicolas Cage. Outstanding. Incredible. I didn't realize till after that he directed this film. And now that I've realized that, I can see how his influence was in this film because it felt a lot like the style of Pig, just in a very different regard because this is obviously a story of Robin Hood. And it's not the story of Robin Hood that you necessarily think it is. You know, when we think of Robin Hood, we think of Maid Marian and the Sheriff of Nottingham. You know, the little cute Disney Pixar, or not Pixar, the cute Disney cartoon with the foxes and Little John being a big bear, you know. This is very different from that. This is literally about, like the title of the film, The Death of Robin Hood. This film is more than just, you know, action and bows and arrows and what the Robin Hood lore and tale has always been. This is about purely how a man who is so, in a lot of ways, even though stories make him out to be a hero, he's a horrible guy, like an obnoxiously horrible guy who is killed and slaughtered, honestly, because he likes it. Not even so much because he's doing the right thing, but because he enjoys doing it. And it's about the choices of this man. What is your legacy? What do you leave behind? How do you want to go out? How do you die when you are the legend known as Robin Hood? The concept of this film is really good. I think first and foremost, the cinematography of this film, as far as just like a scope, scale, landscape, this is the best I've seen all year. It has some beautiful shots and very creative visuals in this film. It's just outstandingly good. I think there's the writing, honestly, in and of itself is all really good. I don't have complaints with writing. Where this film suffers, unfortunately, this film has, in my opinion, a lot of pacing issues. And it's just because it's like, when you think Robin Hood, you think it's going to be a big action heavy film with bow and arrows and this and that. And Robin Hood's going to go down fighting. And this film really doesn't turn into that. If anything, there's actually only one action sequence and it's in the very beginning of the film. And that's it. Spoilers. And so it creates this kind of like weird disconnect with the film that you weren't expecting to get this film. You like that you get it, but it's just super slow that it feels like the pacing's off because it's not the story you're expecting to see, I guess. Hugh Jackman gives a wonderful performance in this film. Bill Skarsgård gives a wonderful performance in this film. Jodie Comer gives a wonderful performance in this film. Unfortunately, the biggest crime of this film, and this is vastly different from Pig too, which makes me baffled by the fact that this is the case. The story of this film, I think, is actually really solid, and I think the journey itself is really good, and the choices he makes in the end is really good. It's just not a very emotionally satisfying film. I don't really feel like you can really feel the emotion in this film. I don't really feel that you can feel for Robin Hood and his story, Margaret, little Margaret, Little John, or Edward, I think is what he's actually called and whatnot. There's nothing really to grasp onto here, which I think is the biggest thing that this film is missing, because if it had it, it would be significantly better in my mind. That being said, this isn't a bad film. It's certainly a far from perfect film, but it's certainly not a bad film, I would say.
Fair enough. Time for me. The Death of Robin Hood feels like a great first draft of a movie that never got refined. I think that the idea that this is a Robin Hood movie and the lore of Robin Hood is used way more as a narrative crutch and an excuse to not have to build out any lore than it is actually an interesting spin on the concept of Robin Hood. I really didn't feel like the fact that this was Robin Hood actually added to anything. I feel like it honestly would have been better if this was just a generic bounty hunter who has killed a bunch of people, because going in expecting this to be a spin on Robin Hood, a more brutalist Robin Hood, which is what they set up in that trailer, I didn't really feel like they played with that subversion of expectations on the true Robin Hood versus the reality of Robin Hood, because pretty much everyone who meets Robin Hood knows he's a bad person. Everyone who meets Robin Hood throughout this movie knows he's a bad person. So them setting up of, the stories are he's a hero, I never really felt like anyone actually believed that. So I never felt like they were subverting expectations of Robin Hood. I just felt like they were calling him Robin Hood, but in reality, this was just a brutal murderer. Like, it felt like a narrative crutch so that they could have an excuse to tell this story. The cinematography in this movie is incredible. I think some of the shots in this movie, the way that it trusts the camera and the audience to pay attention and not have to lock on to every person throughout, actually having space in this movie with certain shots with characters off in the distance being the main focus, I think some of that is really lost in today's cinematography. We very much just hyper-focus on what we need the audience to focus on and don't really trust the audience to do that themselves, which can add a lot of depth and emotion to certain shots. I thought all that was very good. This is very clearly all shot on location. The locations are gorgeous. It's a very dark movie in its color grading, and it's very foggy, which I think works and doesn't work for certain things. It's very much a tone-setting thing, and I think it's a take it or leave it. I think that this movie is extraordinarily brutal in the first half of this movie. There are some things that I was straight up not expecting to witness. Little John ripping a dude's jaw off, Robin Hood ripping a dude's hand in half. Those were insanely brutal, and I actually really liked that, and I agree that that leads into some pacing issues. Now, I don't really have as big of a problem in the pacing as I feel like other people are, because I like how it sets up the action and then gets into the slow, but that slow needed to be interesting and it needed to set up the emotional payoff, because this movie is titled The Death of Robinhood. You know the ending of this movie. This is a Rogue One style situation where you know what's going to happen at the end of this movie. You're just more interested in the journey to get there. And unfortunately, the journey to get there isn't the worst thing you've ever witnessed. It's just not good enough to justify the emotions that they try to pay off with the actual death of Robin Hood. I think that, again, this movie was a great idea. I just think that they executed it pretty poorly. I just think that they thought they were being a lot deeper than they were in reality, and by golly was the hair in this movie atrocious. There was a monologue with Little John and Robin Hood in the beginning of this. Hugh Jackman was eating his wig the entire shot. He had strands of hair in his mouth, and the fact that that was the final shot that made it into this movie was hilariously bad, and I only bring that up because of how distracting it was, and the fact that that's not the only moment where a character's hair was distractingly bad in this movie.
When you mean distractingly bad, do you mean like it just looked bad, or it was just constantly like in the way of things?
It was constantly in the way. There was on Hugh Jackman's, I would assume, wig, there was another shot where there was supposed to be very emotional, and maybe it's just because I didn't care as much because I wasn't feeling the emotion, but there was just one like unicorn strand of hair that's just hanging out like a goddamn penis flaccid in the wind that I'm staring at going, I get it. I get that this is supposed to be like, not everyone's gonna have perfectly movie hair, but there's a reason, even in brutal realistic tales,
right,
they tie back a character's hair, because it can be very distracting when you're looking at a character and their hair is all in their face. That was a problem with Margaret for some of this movie, like young Margaret, where like, I get it, the hair is supposed to be grungy and it's supposed to show, like, there's a way to do that, and I didn't feel like they did that well.
I just think that there's the disconnect with the emotions in this film really does hurt it. Because again, I stand by what I said. I think this is actually a very solid film. The reason it doesn't work as well is because that emotional payoff just isn't there. And that's unfortunately what you based your film around. is that big emotional payoff. So if you don't get that, it's like if Project Hail Mary didn't have Rocky getting saved by Ryan Gosling. It's like if Ryan Gosling chose not to stay on that planet, whatever. Any idea of what they'd set up in that film. You get what I mean. Here it's the same thing. There's just a massive disconnect that just takes you kind of out of the film, or just makes you sit there and question, why did you watch this in the first place? Now, again, like I already said, I think the writing here is outstanding. It is some of the best I've seen all year, objectively, and every actor does slip into this world in this role. But I actually kind of want to piggyback off of something you said, because I really like the way you phrased it. This easily could have been just not a Robin Hood story.
Yeah.
You could have just made this about a random murderer guy. I kind of get why they went with the Robin Hood angle, so that they could have the ideas of the stories that people spin about how he's a good guy, this, that, and it would have been a lot harder to do if it wasn't Robin Hood.
But they never really played with
But
that.
They never play around with it.
Like,
they never show you somebody like believing in Robin Hood as this good guy. They never give you that angle.
Correct. Like the one girl in the beginning, she's telling the tales of Robin Hood and then tries to kill him because she knows he's a bad guy. The one family later on knows he's a bad guy. Bridget knows he's a bad guy. Like, they never played with the idea that he was ever even thought of as a hero. They only say that. This movie very much, and this is why I understand your thoughts on the writing, and the reason I disagree with that is because this movie very much is a tell, don't show movie, and that's not how a movie needs to be written. This movie tells you that people thought Robin Hood was a hero, but you never see it, and so I never felt it.
But that's like one aspect of the whole film. Objectively, that is one aspect of the whole film that they tell you about. They don't show you, but everything else, they pretty much do show you the emotion. They don't just tell you outright. The
problem is that's such a fundamental aspect of what this movie is trying to do. I think the other thing is, like, what was the core message of this movie? Revenge is good? Like, what was that ending supposed to mean? Like, Bridget kills him, and I understand that she does so at his own, like, that whole ending, and I think that's one of the reasons I didn't feel any emotion to it, is because admittedly I was kind of confused as what I would, like, he's a bad guy, but it's sad that he's dying, but revenge is bad, but revenge is, like, what was that ending supposed to mean?
I'm guessing it's supposed to mean the death of Robin Hood, because that's what the movie's title is, and that's what they're going for. Again, like, I'm not going to call this film bad by any stretch, and I have to reemphasize it every time I say something, because I feel like we're going to have differing thoughts on this, where you actually will call it bad because of that disconnect, but I don't disagree with you. Again, the emotional payoff is off because they don't really set... They set up pretty much from the beginning that Robin Hood wants to die.
Yes.
He just wants to die, which is why he gets upset at Little John for saving him, because he was about to literally be demolished, dead, and he could be done with it.
Correct.
And so I guess from that aspect, I get why the ending is the way that it is, because he's still choosing to go out the way he wanted to go out, is like, hey, let this person kill me so that they can have their revenge. But when the whole middle part of your film, after the big reveal of he really wants to die, that's how it goes, happens, and you pretty much don't touch on that again till the end, it doesn't work. Like, there should have been a different type of payoff that... I'm not saying we needed a big action sequence. Here's what I think the ending should have been, and this would have been a much better emotional payoff. You should have had the kid that he let go, and basically said, like, if you come back, I'll slit your throat, whatever. Have him run off, have him grab his family and a whole army to come to this island just to kill Robin Hood, because he finds out he's Robin Hood, whatever. Have a whole action sequence and let Robin go down protecting the people of this island.
That's exactly what I was expecting. That's the ending I was expecting. I know that sounds generic,
but that's what they set up.
Yeah.
And that way he still dies. Technically, he did a bunch of wrong, but the last thing he does is a right thing, which kind of makes it like an emotional payoff ending.
And I think that's kind of a ballsy move that they do, is that they never make you feel like Robin Hood was trying to make up for the actions of his past. He is continuously the same man, a killer. Now, yes, you can make the argument that with Margaret and what he does, making the bow, like, that's the emotion that they're trying to pay off, but I never really, he's also the one that's responsible for everything bad that happens to her, so it doesn't really hold the same emotional weight as it would have if he went down protecting her or something of the sort. Now, I don't necessarily need that because I need a big action sequence, because I wasn't expecting the big action sequences throughout this movie. Personally, that's not at all what I was expecting. I wanted a deeper, more philosophical thing. But I think one of the things, and again, I'll go back to your comments on the writing. The writing is good, but it's very siloed. A lot of this movie, post the first, once we get to the island, is philosophical conversation that's just there to tell you something. It's not there to build out the story. It's not there to build out the character. It's not there to change anything. It's just there to be philosophical, and those philosophical things are written well, but in the context of the story and what they're doing to build out the world and the concepts that we're supposed to be following, to me, it didn't really do much. Because I'm sitting there going, oh, wow, that's a really interesting thing to think about. But why, like, that's not what I want out of... I want to think about a movie, but I want to think about it in the way that it applies to the movie. And because they're just telling me things and I'm never seeing anything, it just didn't feel very meaningful.
Sure, but again, that's not them telling you anything. That's them, like, moving the character along, giving development. Unfortunately, the development goes nowhere because the development they're setting up is, like you said, that big final sequence of him saving people or doing a right thing. That's what that philosophical...
Well, and the right thing was letting the kid go. But at the same time,
but that didn't feel like there was enough weight to it.
Correct.
That doesn't feel at all like there was enough weight to it. Because that's exactly what I was about to say, is letting the kid go was showing that in some form Rob had changed, because outright he just would have killed him.
Oh, we see him kill multiple children in this movie.
Correct.
Which, by the way, that was good. I actually liked that. I feel like that was a very good way of showing how brutal Robin Hood is. He shoots a kid through the eye. He stabs a kid in the neck. Like, holy shit, that kind of, like, movies don't really do that. The Furious did that earlier, and that was an insane thing for the Furious to do. You don't see kids die on screen, let alone watch kids die brutally.
Speaking of kid dying... I'm a little confused by that one scene. Was that kid alive with the arrow through his head, or was that the kid visualizing the brother with the arrow?
He was alive. I hated that. I loved the fact that he shot him and he rolled into the thing, and then he just kept walking.
Why wouldn't you just, like, let him find his cousin's body in the river or something?
Agreed. 100% agreed. I feel like him washing up on the river would have made so much more sense. I understand that it is scientifically possible for that to happen. We have witnessed it throughout history of people surviving, technically. I mean, he still died because of the way that the arrow goes through the brain and the certain sections that it should. Like, I understand that it is scientifically possible. It doesn't mean we need to do it. I agree with you on that. I was kind of taken out of that scene a little bit. It would have made
just weird.
It would have made so much more sense if he went to go take the sheep to the river, or he went to go get a bucket of water from the creek or whatever, and he finds his brother's body. Like, that would have been so much better, in my opinion.
I think it's his cousin, not his brother.
His cousin, sorry. His cousin, yeah.
It really doesn't matter. Who was that actor? Because I swear I've seen that actor in something else before. You have, in fact,
because he is the actor from...
is that Agatha All Along?
Yes, I believe he was Agatha All Along. I'm double-checking, but I believe...
If it's not, I know I've seen him from somewhere. I just don't know what it is.
It's not. Death of Robin Hood, The Night Manager, The Carpenter's Son, and Sons, Hamnet, Lady in the Lake, Franklin, The Magician's Elephant, Dreamin' Wild. No, so I have not... Quiet Place Part 2, maybe? Ford versus Ferrari?
The kid from A Quiet Place. He's the kid.
Oh, yes. I knew I recognized him. I just couldn't
He has darker hair, that's why I didn't recognize him.
Arthur is the character's name.
That's who he is. Thank you. Okay, that makes more sense. I mean, he did a good job in the movie. He just doesn't have a whole lot to do because he's very much there for the Robin Hood, I guess, plot device of I'm going to let this kid go, even though he's clearly filled with anger. And Honestly, Robin Hood does. Though I guess the one emotional impact from that scene you could say that has is that Robin is literally telling him like, "Hey, be better than I was. Don't choose revenge. Don't choose to kill people. Don't choose to seek after this or do whatever. Go home to your family, protect them, be with them, whatever." That's like the one thing where I'm like, okay, that's an interesting concept. I like that they're doing that. What were they trying to set up with the quarterstaff? Were they saying that was Little John that ambushed him?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
That is indeed what they were setting up.
That's what I thought. Which is also why it makes more sense why he was specifically targeting Little Margaret. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, again, they set up a lot of cool things. There's just nothing that gets paid off really all that interestingly, where it's like, oh yeah, this is something I absolutely want to see, later on. Again, it's just the biggest flaw that this movie has is the fact that it doesn't feel emotionally satisfying. I do feel like there's an ending. It feels satisfying with the ending because you're like, oh, okay, the movie's over. Great. I was satisfied with the journey because there was enough writing, good cinematography, and some fun ideas to be had. But it wasn't emotionally satisfying. I didn't feel like the ending was deserved. I didn't feel like anything they were trying to do felt earned. Because quite literally, they didn't earn it.
Well, and
that's not the ending they were going for.
It's the whole thing of like... this movie has pacing issues. I think this is, in my opinion, the best example of the pacing issues. So the leper dies.
Yes.
Horrible to look at, by the way. I hated looking at his face. It was grotesquely horrible. But the leper dies, and his like final words are basically like, "Don't tell Sister Bridget who you are." Basically, the next scene is him telling Sister Bridget who he is. Yeah. I didn't really feel why. I don't understand what they were supposed to do. Like, what was...
I'm guessing the reason that he was saying, like, don't tell her was he was trying to protect her secret, which is that she had a husband who was literally burned alive by Robinhood.
And kids.
And kids who were burned alive by Robinhood.
Yeah.
So I think he was trying to protect that because that would have added more. Because
here's
the thing. I think him just outright telling him, don't say who you are, and treating it more like a protect yourself, just protect this island, gave it a much more like a... If he had told Robin who she was, that he in fact killed her husband and kids.
And on his deathbed, he did.
He did say that he did that?
He did.
Oh, well, never mind that.
He says that Robinhood, he tells him, hey, I know you don't remember, but in those dark crevices of the people that haunt you at night is her husband. He doesn't mention kids, but he mentions the husband, and that is why he says, don't tell her. So Robinhood knows why.
That's exactly why he told her then.
I guess.
I just pieced that together.
And
I didn't hear that in the dialogue. That's exactly why he said it.
Thinking about it now, I guess it kind of does make more sense, because that's what ultimately leads to Robin Hood's death, is telling her. And I think Robin Hood knows that would be the outcome, and I think that is Robin Hood's excuse to die, is he's finally feeling some remorse for his actions, which, like, again, I wish they would have played with that more. You don't really feel like Robin Hood ever feels remorse until they say he feels remorse. Like, I don't...
Yeah. And I will also say this, because this is the movie that's going to get compared to a lot, this is, no pun intended, because Hugh Jackman's also in this, this is literally Logan reskinned, just with Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, unlike Logan, again, this is not a very emotionally satisfying film. Logan is also about a disgruntled man and this and that, but he actively regrets his actions and chooses in the end to go save the kids, even though... literally, up until that point, he had no inclination or care for the kids in Logan. Spoilers for Logan if nobody's seen that, by the way. It's all about Hugh Jackman being an older version of Wolverine, making all the wrong decisions in life, just trying to hold on to the last bit of life that he has, and then ultimately choosing to go back to something that he cared about and be a hero. That's what's so satisfying about that film. Ironically, the ending that we kind of wanted for this film, which was let Robin Hood be a hero like the tales predicted he was this whole time. Instead, we didn't get that. And so I get, once again, it just leads to this, not a messy film. Like, this film isn't messy, but it feels incomplete. I think that's another word we can use. It feels very incomplete because it doesn't have any resolution that is...
It goes back to what I said at the start of my review. This movie feels like a really good first draft that never got refined. It honestly, I think even a better way to put it is it feels like a great outline of a movie. Like, these are all the beats that we want to hit. This is all the emotions, but with a very big lacking of connective tissue that actually makes you care. Like, it hits the things it wants to hit, but it doesn't do anything to make you care about those hits. One thing it does do, though, Carson, and I'm going to ask you this. I don't even know if you knew that this was what they were doing. I hope you did, though, because what the actual fuck? Why was Sister Bridget masturbating in a cave?
I don't know.
Why was she masturbating in a cave? What was that scene supposed to do? What were we supposed to be feeling? I'm literally sitting there going, oh, she's mourning. She's clearly mourning someone. Like, she feels a loss. This is supposed to be an emotional. He's, like, viewing in. Oh, she pulled up her. Oh, she's just going at it. What the fuck?
They had a rated R quota to fill.
Yeah, like, what the. Like, that was not only the most pointless scene in the movie, it was also just, like, the most, like, oh, that is so. I don't need, like, unnecessary is the same as pointless, but, like, I just can't hammer home enough the fact of, like,
it's not needed.
It wasn't set up, it wasn't paid off, there was
I'm sure there's a reason, but we're not going to know until the director explains it, but I also can't even begin to understand why that's needed.
Because the only thing they needed to do was have her not masturbate, and her going in mourning and going into the cave and being, like, remorseful or something. Like, she's very clearly tired, and setting up that idea before we even know that her husband is dead, because that's what that room looks like, is that it looks like a shrine to the dead. So why is she masturbating in front of the dead, Carson?
Again, I'm sure there's a reason why, although it's the way you phrased it that is just making me laugh uncontrollably. Me. All they had to do was make her not masturbate. Great, thanks. Thanks for putting that thought.
No, but seriously, the only excuse that you can make, and I don't even believe in this excuse, but it's the only excuse that I could hear someone making, is she was relieving stress from a stressful day at work. Fine.
Sure, I guess.
Why did we need to see it? Why? Like, what was the emotional payoff? The story
This sounds stupid, but I could see a director coming and saying, well, it was her trying to connect with her dead husband in any way while being at the shrine, and I just think that's the most... I could see somebody saying that.
Director coming in.
Dumbest thing.
So we need to set up that she misses her husband and that she loved her husband very much. What do we do here? Let me just put my glasses on really quickly and we think. Masturbate in front of him. Oh, is he still alive? Does he, like, come back? No. Is it his grave? Is it his... No. It's a shrine to all the dead people on the island. Oh, is it like a super hot, steamy... No. It's basically a nun who is in charge of watching children going into a cave and finger blasting herself to no end. Oh, is it what is it? Hugh Jackman's gonna watch her do it.
What the he's gonna
fuck?
Be in the room? No, he's just gonna watch from a distance, and that's it.
Yep.
Speaking of Hugh Jackman, we see a lot of Hugh Jackman in this movie, and Bill Skarsgård. I saw more Bill Skarsgård in this movie than I really wanted to see, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, that one mud scene felt so unnecessary because I never felt like that mud mattered because they just charge in and start killing people immediately. It was like, let's cover ourselves in mud so we can't be detected. And we've been detected 2 seconds later.
And we've literally just been seeing it's all over. It's over. It's done.
Yeah. I will say, I think the best shot in this entire movie is in that first part where Edward, or Little John, his wife just died, and he brutally ripped that dude to shreds. He rips his jaw off, he flattens his head. It's like a super emotional scene. He's crying over his wife, and then in one shot with no cuts, we pan over and there's a scared little girl.
Yeah.
I think that's the best shot in the movie. I think it's all downhill from there, admittedly. That felt like it was setting up something that never got paid off. Like, look, I don't.
Again, I think objectively this is a film that I could enjoy more on rewatch, but I feel like it's also, I'm only going to get so much out of it, and I've kind of already pretty much reached the limit of what I'm going to get out of it because there's nothing deeper to really look into, even though I think the film itself thinks that there is. So yeah, I could see myself watching this again, but honestly, not solely for the purpose of I really enjoyed this film. It will be more along the lines of I really enjoyed this director and what he does. I think is really good. Even if this film is just okay. I do think you should watch Pig, though. Pig is outstanding.
I can watch Pig. I have no interest in rewatching this film. I got everything that this film has to offer, and I don't think there is going to be more that I get out of this on rewatch. I think I'm more curious to see what other people took away that I might have missed than anything. I'm gonna obviously, like, Jeremy Johns posted his review earlier today or yesterday. I think I'll probably watch that afterwards. I'm curious to see if I missed anything. I don't think I did, but I'm curious because I love talking about theater experiences because I love going to the theater. This was an interesting one. I have a big problem. I apparently have the inability to go to 7:20 p.m. Friday showings because the last 2 or 3 movies that I've scheduled for 7:20 p.m. on a Friday, I've ended up getting to the Metro too late. The Metro gets delayed and I can't go to the movie. But I always end up rebooking while I'm standing on the platform. And you know what? That means the next showing, at least in my theater, is about 10:30, which means the movie starts at 11, which means I'm leaving at 1 a.m. So yes, this is very much like The Furious last week. I watched this movie very, very late at night. So my theater had maybe 10 people in it. I'm going to describe to you every single thing of that happened in this theater. There was a dude who was sitting by himself in the front right-hand corner. He was on his phone for about half the movie because he was not interested. There was a man sitting to my left-hand side, maybe 2 seats removed. Carson, he left with 20 minutes of the movie left. He sat through an hour and 40 minutes of this movie and decided, that's enough of this movie, I'm going to leave. Then there was a couple sitting at the end of the aisle on my left-hand side. They were fucked asleep. Like, they were passed the fuck out. They were fully asleep with a blanket on in the corner of this movie. There was a guy when I was leaving this theater he was very clearly stoned out of his mind, and he turned around on the escalator as we're going down, and he's like, what did you think of the movie? And I gave him my very short synopsis of a review, and he was like, yeah, I was really locked in for the beginning, and then they completely lost me. And that's why I think that we're probably very much like, I think you're higher on this. I know you're higher on this movie than I am, but
slightly higher.
I think that we're all kind of in that same area of, like, this movie is kind of a nothing burger at the end of the day. I feel like it had so much potential from the concept, but never really did anything with it.
Is this going to infuriate you based on where it is on my letterbox that I think I might like The Furious just one movie more than this?
Yeah.
Is that going to infuriate you?
Not infuriate.
Because I'm not looking at it from a theater experience. I'm looking at it from just the filmmaking perspective of how it was made, how it looks, how beautiful it is. The problems I had with Furious were like the ADR and the fact that the story just felt nonsensical at times, even though the action was really good.
So
I just feel like as a movie as a whole, I think there's a bit more.
Here's my perspective on that. Robinhood is a more consistently better made movie from a construction standpoint, but never has any high highs. The beginning of this movie is strong, and I mean that action sequence at the barn is strong, but that's the only high, and admittedly, it's just good. It's not blow your mind fantastic. The lows of The Furious are easily lower than the lows of Robinhood. I don't think there's anything in this movie that's nearly as bad as the ADR in Furious, but The Furious has some of the highest highs of the year. Like, it is so much. The highs are, like, not even comparably better than Robinhood. Like, it's so much better to me that, like, I just love. I was bored watching The Death of Robinhood. I was never bored watching The Furious, even if it had bigger problems than Robin Hood.
Again, that's why I'm putting it kind of on the same wavelength. May have been bored by Robin Hood, but it was more consistent.
I haven't.
And Furious was the exact opposite, where it's like I was entertained, but it was a little sloppily put together at times. So I just think that that's kind of how
I haven't ranked Robin Hood yet, but I have Furious at number 5 right now of my favorite movies.
You were also like super high on Furious
absolutely.
compared to I was. Though.
Absolutely,
I looked at those problems much more than you did, but I don't know. Death of Robinhood. I'll never have to see it again.
Yeah,
go watch Pig.
I unfortunately cannot, with a good conscience, say you have to see this in theaters. In fact, I don't. I just. I wouldn't even say if you find it interesting, go watch it, because unfortunately, I think the concept is way better than the execution of this movie. Yes. I think one thing that I will give this movie is the acting across the board is phenomenal. I think Hugh Jackman gives a great performance for his lacking of what he's given. I think Margaret, the little girl, she gives a fantastic performance, very strong for a child actor. I think all the actors bring great performance. I didn't even know that was Bill Skarsgård until I looked up the cast preparing for this, because he looks nothing like Bill Skarsgård. Not just because they change his look, but because every time he's on screen, it is the darkest shot in the darkest of night with maybe torchlight lighting them. So I never got a good look at what his face was with Little John, which I don't know if that was purposeful or what that was supposed to be. But yeah, the acting was good. That's another thing I'll give it. But anything else you want to say about the Death of Robin Hood, Carson, before we get into Toy Story 5?
And just before I lost all my thoughts about the movie, I went ahead and just put it on my letterbox. So that's good.
Yeah,
that's
I write all my reviews on the Metro ride back, which is going to suck when I move back, because I'm not going to be able to write my reviews on the Metro anymore, because I'll have to drive to the theaters.
Sure.
I'll miss that, but yeah, Yeah. Are you ready to give your reviews? I'm going to say this is one of them. We're going to
see what happens here.
I'm excited to see what you say. Carson, give us your review of Toy Story 5.
So, and people can get mad at me if they want. People can absolutely get mad at me if they want. I don't think that in Pixar's history, there has been a more, not perfect, but a more consistent franchise than Toy Story. Toy Story is the most consistent franchise where if you look at all the movies, you can at least say they're good. They may not all be 10 out of 10 masterpieces at times. I certainly don't think that for some of them, but I think they are the most consistently, you can have a good time sitting down and watching all of these films, and you can take away something from them. And that's kind of how I feel about Toy Story 5. Toy Story 5 is by far, of all the Toy Story films in my mind, the lowest. It's actually a kind of bit of a good drop-up, but I would still call this movie good. I think this movie suffers from we ended Toy Story 3 so perfectly, so then we're going to have Toy Story 4. Oh, but then we ended Toy Story 4 in a pretty logical conclusion for Woody and the gang and all of them. Now we got to rope everybody back into this. I think the setup for this film is just so sloppily thrown together, because it's clear they have to throw all the characters back in there. They got to get Woody back in here. They got to get the toys together. And unfortunately, it sets up a very confusing movie to watch, because I'm not mad at this film for wanting to change protagonist and give Jessie a moment to shine in this film. It's not that. It's the fact that when your entire franchise mostly focuses on characters like Woody specifically, Buzz in Toy Story 4 took a bit of a backstep compared to other films, but he was still in it, and to a good extent. In this film, Woody and Buzz are both kind of sidelined to play support, and it just feels odd. And I don't think that that's a feeling that's going to go away on rewatch anytime soon, just because it doesn't feel like that should be the case, but it is. The setup of this film is really odd. The multiple Buzz storyline is clearly there for the humor and for plot convenience, which I've already fixed a way to solve that, and it's still not great. It would still have plot convenience, but at least I fixed it so it makes sense and according to the plot and how you could incorporate those characters in. But once you get past that first act and you get into the second and third act, you actually find a really nice emotional core message to this film that is incredible. It's great. I love the direction they take this film with Bonnie's having a hard time making friends and the toys are just trying to help her. Or I say toys like it's toys. Jessie is trying to help Bonnie make a friend in some regard. And the message of relying on technology all the time, I like that, because truth of the matter is, and in this day and age, something that is important to realize is technology is not the fundamental of how we should exist. It's not how we should be. It's not how we should act all the time. But I like how at the end of this film, they both learn to coincide with one another, because that's kind of how it has to be. In a world day and age where we are now, technology is very vital and very important, but it also can be used as a drug and an addiction, I guess, and stop you from other opportunities like Bonnie making friends. And I like how the toys can work to coincide with them to create a really beautiful, resonating, emotional ending. And for Jesse's story, you know, to get this practically 20-year payoff with, you know, her coming in and getting the payoff with her original owner, with Emily, and kind of helping Bonnie make that friend, it works really well. The humor is really funny. I think the way that they do utilize Woody and Buzz is good. I think the unfortunate thing is, whereas the fourth one also felt pointless, this one feels, even though it has a more emotional story and a more honestly justified reason with the story of technology to exist, it still feels ever more pointless, because unlike the fourth one, in my opinion, this one actually does like suffer just a lot from that first act, the plot conveniences, and then a story that with Woody and Buzz not being the center focus of, it just feels weird, and it kind of makes me not want to rewatch this film as much. I still acknowledge that this is a good film. It's just not a great film. But all in all, as far as like a franchise for Toy Story, I still don't think Toy Story has like had a misstep by any means. I think they're still pretty solid as far as the franchise goes.
Fair enough. Time for me to give my thoughts. Compose myself, because what is about to come out of my mouth is going to piss off a lot of people. And I'm going to tell you why after I give my thoughts, because I have to tell you something after we talk about this. Toy Story 5 is just another needless Toy Story movie. It is a fine movie with the worst first act of the entire year, and it's not even comparable. The first act of this movie is absolute garbage. It is pointless. It is slop. It is shove a message down your throat. It is don't trust your audience. It is repeat that technology is bad. Legitimately, every other fucking sentence. It is kind of snooze fest, and it really put me in a bad mood when we started this movie. The Buzz plotline that they set up at the start of this movie is also the most pointless plot convenience. We need to have drones to save them at the end of the movie. BS. It never has an emotional payoff. It never has any need other than, oh no, we're trapped on this car. How do we get off of it? They're drones now! That was stupid, absolutely pointless. I felt absolutely nothing. Jesse is the main character of this movie, yes, but Bonnie is actually the main character. Andy was never really that much of a focus of the original Toy Story movies, if you think about it. Yes, he was there, but he was always a background character. Other than 3, where him going off to college, he plays a little bit more of an active role, barely so. Bonnie is very much the co-lead with Jesse in this movie, which is an interesting subversion of expectations. However, none of the toys other than Jesse are needed. Take Buzz out of the movie, take Woody out of the movie would have happened the exact same. They did nothing, which makes Woody's inclusion feel even worse, because Woody got a great send-off. Say what you will about Toy Story 4. Woody got a great send-off at the end of Toy Story 4, and when they made it clear that they were undoing that, my only thought was they need to justify it. He needs to be needed for this film. Not only was he not needed for this film, it was very clearly a detraction, because you could have just spent that time with the other toys that didn't leave. It was just so needless. Their attempts at edgy humor in this movie were also kind of stupid. They have that one joke where the hippopotamus is going to say ass and he gets his, like, there's a difference between telling jokes that parents can find funny that kids won't find funny, and being unnecessarily in your face edgy, and that is what a lot of the edgy humor in this movie felt like. And Pixar doesn't typically do that. Maybe they've done it more recently, but I haven't really felt that in modern Pixar movies. This movie, I felt it a lot. Now, I'm not saying that this movie didn't have jokes that I found funny, but there was a lot more that I didn't find funny than what I did find funny. The friendship and the technology story did have a good payoff. I did enjoy the payoff of this movie. It's just the setup was so shoved down your throat. It was racism. This movie was racism the movie, and I don't feel like they played with that in any way that actually made me care about it. I'll get way more into my thoughts, but overall, I walked away. I wish I could say disappointed, but I didn't have high expectations to be disappointed by. But I just did not. I did not enjoy most of this movie. I easily think this is not only the worst Toy Story movie, this is one of the worst Pixar movies. I'm gonna put that out there. I think this is a okay movie. I thought it was whatever. Now, the reason why I said that I'm going to piss a lot of people off with that is because I've spoken to a few people after this movie came out. I have not watched a single review, but I've spoken to some people. Hi, some of them might be watching this podcast because I know they do. I know a non-small amount of people that gave this movie a 5 out of 5 and said this was the best Toy Story movie. Shout out to you, Finn.
Here's what I'll say, because I also want to say this. Obviously, opinions in movies are subjective. Everybody has their own opinion. Again, I told you earlier today that I do objectively believe Toy Story 4 is at least my second favorite Toy Story movie. I love Toy Story 4, and I think they do so much right with that film. I haven't seen Toy Story 2 in a while. Maybe that would change with Toy Story 2.
I was going to say, I think you need to rewatch Toy Story 2.
I need to rewatch Toy Story 2. I know for a fact it definitely beats 1, but I don't think that's... I think number 1 is just overrated to hell. I like number 1, but it's incredibly overrated. If you like this film, great. I like this film. I think there's a lot to love with this film, but I certainly do not think it is a 10 out of 10 movie. This is actually the first Toy Story movie that I would go, this has major problems. The biggest thing with this film is it doesn't feel like a Toy Story film in a lot of ways because the toys are barely involved in it. Again, it is mostly Jessie, Bullseye, and then the little technology toys. They rope Woody and Buzz into the story, and I guess it is a lot like Buzz going after Jessie is a very logical way of
but that doesn't do anything. Like, it literally take that plot line out, the movie still happens the exact same.
Happens. The only difference is that he's the one who rallies the Buzz Army, which honestly, you don't need the Buzz Army there either. And I want to touch on this first because I explained in my initial review, I found a way to fix it and make it at least more logical. Have Jessie be getting into a fight with the lily pad and have Buzz somehow get intervened where it's like, all right, but let's all calm down. And she recognizes who Buzz is. Like, oh man, you've been updated so many times since the 90s. Look, here's a new updated model version of you. And Buzz is like trying to get her to stop or whatever. And he accidentally purchases like 100 of these Buzz Lightyears on like the dad's credit card or whatever. Showing up to the house. You have a bunch of updated Buzz Lightyears with all these cool things. That's kind of how you can wrap it into it in a funny way, but also make sense to the story so that they're there not just out of plot convenience, but like out of like, oh God, Buzz ordered a bunch of Buzz Lightyears using the credit card. Well, because
I don't know. If you think about it, they wash up on a random island that you have no idea where it is, row themselves to shore, and then conveniently are within a reasonable walking distance away from the main character of the movie.
It also makes me question the logic of these Buzz Lightyears. Did they not know that they had wings? Because they could have flown off the island instead of rowing off the island.
I'll give the movie this. They need it very clearly said update on the lily pad when they were activating the helicopter blades or the drone blades.
Okay.
So I think it might have just been a new Actually, no. Scrap all that. You can't update a software to give you wings. So they've always had the wings. So I take back my statement. I agree with you. How did they not know they had wings, and why didn't they just fly off the island?
Again, I'm okay with plot convenience in like a kid's Pixar movie. I'm not expecting a Pixar movie not to have a little bit of plot convenience in it, but I am expecting them to at least be a little smarter in how they tackle getting things to where they are, like the Buzz Lightyears.
Here's the other thing, and this is it was probably going to be the most hated thing I say on this whole review. the Toy Story movies have always played around with logic. They've never necessarily been the most consistently, like, logical movies, but I will say, even if they have illogical things that happen in them in terms of, like, they should hear you talking or they should have seen you walking or whatever, they always keep it on a minimum. They don't really overly utilize the whole, like, the character should hear the toy talking in the situation, and the character could have seen the toy movie. Like, that's not really a big thing in a lot of the movies. This movie, that is the entire movie, is you're talking at full volume. Are we saying that the toys can't talk to humans? Because I thought we've set up that they, like, not only that, but also, like, these characters are texting each other on their own devices, and no one, including the parents who get involved in these situations, ever question. The daughter knows she didn't text her at all. So then they just question her showing up to the exact house that had the toys? Like, I get that there's like, oh, that's so stupid. It's like, but like, you need to be logical. You need to treat your audience like they're smart. This movie treats the audience like they're stupid because you're just supposed to accept that a random girl showing up to a random house with her toys just knows that they're at, like, not just in the air, like, at this person's house.
Yeah, but they've also always played around with that logic even since the third movie. The third movie, the very end of why Andy gives the toys to Bonnie is because Woody writes the note saying, hey, donate to this address. And his mom just kind of goes along with it. Like, oh, Ma, you think I should donate these? Doesn't question the fact of, I never said that. Doesn't go along with that. It literally, like, they've always played around with that logic. So when it comes to that kind of logic, you kind of got to let it just go a little bit because, again,
it's the amount of it in this movie.
I will say it's the amount of it.
Because here's the thing.
It is the amount of it.
The dad thing, where the Bonnie texts her dad to put the toys in the box in the garage, and then we never see the toys again for the entire movie until the end, which was fucking stupid. That I can forgive. That's the logic that I can forgive. Because she's a child. Like, the dad's, sure. It's dad. I can forgive that. It's the multiple interactions between these children and the parents getting involved and the lily pad running away and like, all of these things that are just, like, big logical leaps that I just have to go. And they make a point to show in this girl's bedroom that there's muddy horseshoe prints all over her bedroom. She never questions that ever. Like, again, I understand that there is a leap of faith that you need to take with these movies, but you have to rein it in sometimes, and there has to be a limit, and this movie, to me, crosses that line.
I don't think it crosses that line. I do think it uses it a bit more than the others, so it's a bit more noticeable. Again, Toy Story 3 has it. I think... Actually, now that I think about it, I have to look at it again. I don't think Toy Story 4 actually has any of that, but that's also because they don't really have a lot of human interaction unlike this movie. The only time they really have any human interaction is when the car starts freaking out at the end of the fourth one, and they're, the toys are the ones driving the car. Like, yeah. Trixie's the GPS, the stuffed unicorn is pulling on the gas pedal, whatever. I guess that's the only one you could really say, but even still, like, that's one moment in that whole film. There's at least 7 different moments in this film where you could look at it and just be like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't want to harken on that too much. That's such a, in my mind, that's a minor nitpick because you can suspend your disbelief, and that's something you've had to do with this franchise the whole time. And especially in an animated world like Toy Story, you kind of have to. It's like asking the question at the end of Cars 2. There was a car pope, so what kind of car was Jesus? Doesn't matter. Means nothing to the story.
Again, those things don't matter because they're not fundamental to the story. These kids texting back and forth with each other is fundamental to the story. And I just, again, and maybe I'm just misremembering or whatever, but I never remember any of the other Toy Story movies, even back to the first movie, that plays with your suspension of disbelief in that form of human interaction logic as much as this does. Because also, if you think back, the first movie has people in it, but not that much. It isn't that much. The second
Actually, I'm pretty sure the only person you see is Andy. Like, Sid. That's actually the only, like, you see Sid. I guess
Sid.
But, like, everybody else you see is, like, the legs of somebody. You don't actually see anybody else. Correct. Andy and
so
Sid.
It's very much it is very much a toy-focused movie because it's Toy Story and what have you. Toy Story 2 has a good amount of human interaction. Like, there's actually there's 2 main human characters that are pretty prevalent. You have the owner of the Toy Story and the guy who's also the repair guy, and there's a decent amount of humans. You also obviously have Andy and his parents, but they're, like, kind of side because it's he's at the toy store for most of the movie.
Yes.
Toy Story 3, pretty minimal overall. There is human interaction, but it's relatively minimal. 4 and 5 have increased that level of human interaction a lot once we shifted the focus to Bonnie. This movie
How does 4...
Well, because 4 is also it also focuses on Bonnie as well, and has a bigger focus with Bonnie than it does, at least the first movies had with Andy. But I'm saying it's
not human interaction. It just has more humans.
Correct.
In it, is what I would say.
What I'm saying is it's a 1 has less than 2. 2 has more than 2 has more than 1. 3 has more than 2. 4 has drastically... Well, I don't even say 4 has more than 3. 5 has drastically more. Like, again...
I was about to say, I think 4 might be close to the same as 3 when you think about it, because you have the teachers, you have the daycare, you have the moms, you have the dads, you have all the... You literally travel a lot in Toy Story 3. It might be the same as 4. 4 might be just slightly more because it's at a carnival.
Yeah.
And it's like set at the carnival the entire time. But it's probably about the same as 3. But 5 is drastically different.
Because 5, like, again, Jesse is... It's... I think the term is deuterogonists, where it's basically they're co-leads of this movie. Yeah. Where you have Bonnie going on her journey and Jessie going on her journey, and they kind of come together at the end. And I don't have a problem with that. It just, because you're introducing more humans, you're opening yourself up to way more logical jumps that are necessary. Sure. And I just didn't... Maybe it's because I was already lower on this movie, but, like, that first act put such a terrible taste in my mouth. I just have to say, that first act was garbage.
And I'm not saying it's great. I think to call it the worst first act of this year is kind of crazy, considering that we do exist in a world with Scream 7, The Bride, Scary Movie 6.
The Bride's first act is easily better than the Toy Story first act. I think The Bride's first act is actually the most interesting part of that movie.
Heavily debatable, but I think there's a lot of films on this. Like, I need to look back at like my letterbox and look at the films from 2026. I can tell you what's probably got a better first act. It's probably not much, because even I said this first act is very sloppily put together, but it's certainly not atrocious. They set up everything they need to set up, especially with Bonnie being a kid who plays with toys but has no friends. Like, they set up the logical conclusion for what they need to get you going in this movie.
I disagree with that. They don't set it up, they force it. That's my problem with this movie, is the way that you set something up is letting it happen. This movie forces it to happen. And what I mean by that is there's that whole Netflix debate of repeating yourself. Every single line of dialogue for the first act of this movie, every single one of them, is something to do with technology being bad or Bonnie not having friends. There is nothing else. That is the only two. Every single line of dialogue is pointed at those two things. And it is just so... The dialogue has no depth to it. It's just, fuck you, technology, or Bonnie's alone. That is the only thing that they do. The only other thing, I guess, that I can give you is setting up Buzz's love for Jessie, which I also kind of found slightly disinteresting. It was sweet, but like...
I actually liked that. I thought that was a nice addition. I like that that's Buzz's struggle in this movie. It gives him something to do that's, not connected to the technology part, and I kind of like that. The technology part... So setting up getting to the technology being bad isn't bad. That's not bad at all. It's the continuation of it. Because they actually start off with Bonnie playing with her toys, whatever, in the yard, and they're at the wedding, whatever, somebody poisons, whatever. They do all that, and then they reveal, oh, she's not connecting with other kids. They're laughing at her because she plays with toys. Jessie goes and discovers why the kids are the way that they are. It's because they all are connected through these technology things. That's when they find out it's bad. All of that's fine. It's once they get to that, and it's like, okay, the lily pad is introduced. Then it's just from there until Bonnie gets to that sleepover of all technology is bad, and they constantly drill that into your head without giving you a chance to breathe and discover that it's bad. Like, if the toys discovered that it was bad, like, oh, well, we can all play together, whatever, and the lily pad just takes control, like, okay, we just made Bonnie a friend. Like, it's interesting because they actually, like, set it up to where, like, it's clear that Jessie's been trying to get Bonnie to make a friend for a while. Like, they set that up logically, again, in that first, like, few minutes of the movie, and then the lily pad just does it. like within a few seconds, and that pisses Jesse off. That makes sense. That's logical. But again, it's so, instead of letting the toys discover that on their own, it's already kind of just like, go, 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 we're drilling it into you. That it doesn't stick as hard. And so I'm not mad at it, but it's sloppy.
It feels less like a story and more like a sermon. And what I mean by that is, instead of letting like you said, letting the toys discover it for themselves, letting the moments and the story breathe and develop on its own, it felt like someone going up onto the TV screen or on the movie screen and going, by golly, technology's bad, oh, we're gonna force the message of this sermon is technology is bad, technology is... Like, that is what this first act felt like. It didn't feel like oh, let's discover technology is bad. Let's, like, let this breathe. Let's let this feel. It's Bonnie has Playdate with her toys. Bonnie gets a lily pad. Technology's bad. Technology's bad. Technology's bad. And that's the entire next 30 minutes of this movie. It's just technology bad, technology bad, technology bad, technology. Like, that's all that is for 30 minutes.
Well, not for 30 minutes. It's like that for like 10, and then you get to Act 2, which is Jessie going, to... where's she going? She follows... she's following the lily pad. That's why she gets where she is.
Well, she's going to the sleepover, and then she gets lost on the course to the sleepover.
Correct. That's what it is. Thank you. Everything from that... But, like, that's, like, the point where it's, like, from that point on, the film's pretty consistently good. Like, there's good jokes and whatnot. The way they wrap Woody back into this, that's a big complaint with mine, because that is something where it's just like, okay, you clearly wanted Woody in your film, and I guess that's a way you could rope it back in of, oh, he misunderstood Jessie by she needed help, so he came back.
He does
you
nothing,
could have also,
though.
Here's how you really should have wrapped Woody into this story. It should have been Jessie asking for Woody for help in the beginning, so you set up that they do have a connection with one another, that they have set that up, and Buzz goes to Woody, hey, Jessie's gone, she's missing, I don't know where she is, I need you back here to help me find her, because you're one of the only people who truly can help me find Jessie and understand where she would have gone or whatever, this, that, and you've also been out in the world, so you can help me, like, figure this out. That would have been a logical way to get Woody back into the story. It also would have been less more on the... I didn't really like the Buzz Woody, like, oh, we're arguing over who's in charge thing. I didn't like
because
that all
it
that
never
much.
mattered at all.
Because
it never slowed them down. It never got paid off. Nothing happened with it.
Well, and also because it's not their story, and that's the biggest disconnect with this film. Is also the fact that, like, all the toys feel completely irrelevant in this story.
It would have made
and again
more sense for Mr. Potato Head to go with Buzz than it did to have Woody come back and go with Buzz.
I don't know if it meant more. It just would have meant the same.
It would have made more sense because then you're not ruining a great character ending for Woody at the end of movie 4.
We've had the toys leave the house before. In Toy Story 2, they leave the house to go after Woody.
Correct.
Like that's what they do in that movie. So they've been out in the world. So it's just weird.
I mean, the entirety of Toy Story 3 is them outside of the house.
Correct.
They, like, are never in the house.
I'm never going to call this film bad because it's certainly not bad. I would rather watch this film probably more than, like, Incredibles 2. Like, here it's actually funny because the reason I know not a lot of people like Incredibles 2.
I do.
I know you do. Not a lot of people like it. Hold on. We're going to play a quick game, Brandon. Just because I'm curious here on the podcast. You ready? We're going to play a fun game called This or That. And it's all going to be taking Pixar movies, comparing them to Toy Story 5. Are you ready, buddy?
You're not going to like my answers to these, but yeah, sure.
All right.
Are these what I'd rather rewatch?
Yeah, what would you rather rewatch?
Okay, give it to me.
Now, granted, to be fair, I think that there's some pretty clear, easy ones on here. Toy Story 5 or Cars 3?
Cars 3.
Okay, I already know what direction this is going to go in. Toy Story 5 or Finding Dory?
Oh, easily Finding Dory.
Finding Dory. I wouldn't argue with you on that. I already know how you feel about this one, so this is probably also going to piss me off. The Good Dinosaur or Toy Story 5?
Toy Story 5.
Okay, good. At least you acknowledge that.
I've watched The Good Dinosaur, and I could not tell you a single thing that happens in that movie because it is so forgettable.
Cars 2 or Toy Story 5?
Easily Cars 2. Easily Cars 2.
Lightyear or Toy Story 5?
I have never watched Lightyear, and nor will I probably ever watch Lightyear.
I'm not going to ask that one because that one's I would pick this over Toy Story 5. Okay, honestly, let's go with an original. Bug's Life or Toy Story 5?
Bug's Life. I like Bug's Life.
I know you've seen this. Onward or Toy Story 5?
Onward is in my top 10 Pixar movies of all time. So Onward. I think Onward is my sixth favorite Pixar movie. Brave. And I don't even like Brave all that much.
I think Soul's pretty good. I'm not gonna.
Soul's an incredible. Soul's fantastic. I think Soul's my number 10. Maybe it might be higher.
Elio or Toy Story 5?
Elio, probably. So here's my problem. I think that this movie has some high highs. I just never really want to rewatch that first act again. I genuinely don't see why people are like that first act. To me was just so okay. I'm gonna put this in a better term. Every trailer for this movie was just the first act. And the trailers did a better job of explaining what the first act was than the first act did of explaining what it was. You could just watch the trailer for this movie and watch the entire movie starting at Act 2 and have missed zero important elements of this, which makes the first act worse because it makes the fact that you were able to concise this down into a 2.5-minute trailer, but then you spread it out for 25 minutes. And it's just, they did nothing different, legitimately nothing different than what you get the funny scene with the wedding, you get technology bad, you get the introduction of lily pad, all of that happens, that's all the first act. The trailer did a better job of delivering what the core message of this movie was going to be than the actual first act of this movie did.
So you know what I'm also going to actually say, piggybacking off of that? And I'm going to say this because it's kind of similar to The Boys in a lot of ways. You probably need to fire the marketing team for this film, if I'm being completely honest.
Like, we already have a problem with trailers, but, like, legitimately, you spoiled everything. Legitimately, the entire first act of this movie was put online before this movie came out for all of us to watch, but it was cut down into setting up the Buzz plot line in, like, a minute clip, and then the 2.5-minute trailer that showed us, here is the wedding scene that sets up what this movie, the start of this movie with Bonnie playing, her feeling alone and not having any friends, and then Lily Pad getting introduced and everyone being anti-Lily Pad. That is the entire first act of this movie, except instead of telling it in 2.5 minutes, they tell it in 25 to 30 minutes. And here's the thing. I understand that is how that works. The problem is they did legitimately nothing different. They did nothing interesting. All the connective tissue that built out past that 2.5-minute trailer was just repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again of technology bad, technology bad. It has nothing new to say than what they said in the trailer.
Again, but yes, but again, if that's what your movie's about, you're going to pitch that to the audience. Like, hey, this is about
again, I have no problem with them pitching the concept.
So that's not the trailer's fault. That's just the film's fault for not.
It is. It's the film's fault for taking that trailer and then just basically making every scene longer and doing nothing else with it.
Where I think the trailer failed, and this is why I say fire the marketing team. We weren't upset by Jesse being the lead of this film. Again, I have no problem with that being the case. Your marketing team did not, except with the exception of posters in which she is in the center, but is next to Woody and Buzz, and I'm actually pretty sure Woody and Buzz are actually in front of her. She's just in the center. Jessie in any of these trailers, not once, is really featured that heavily or is featured about the same as Woody and Buzz, and that's simply not true in this movie. They are all vastly different in this film. Woody is not shown the same as Jessie. Buzz is not shown the same as... This is Jessie's movie through and through. Please, look up a photo of the poster.
No, I know what the poster looks like. That's not what I'm looking up.
But I am still like sold on the fact that they never once pitched this as Jessie's movie. There's one shot in the trailer that there is, and it's the transition of you see Emily holding Jessie, and it transitions to Bonnie, and you can kind of tell like, okay, we're going to cut back to Jessie's past a little bit. That doesn't tell us that the movie's going to be Jessie's film. that never once tells us that. And when you give all the way of Woody and Buzz's like bits and you just put them in the trailer too, that also makes you incredibly disappointed when you get to the film and you see that everything Woody and Buzz does in this movie is just there and that's it.
I was gonna disagree with you, but that last part that you just mentioned, I actually fully agree with, because Woody and Buzz, 99% of their scenes are shown in the trailer, because 99% of their scenes are in that first act and everything else is just them chasing and failing, and they do nothing the entire film at all. Again, you could have removed arguably the only thing that they do is maybe convince Jesse at the end of like the cut between the second and third acts when Jesse's under the tree and they convince her to come back, but that's Buzz, not Woody. Woody was not needed for that. And again, you ended Woody's story, so if you're going to bring Woody back, you need to make it feel meaningful, and it did not feel meaningful because he did literally nothing other than argue with Buzz for his entire runtime. And I guarantee you, Blaze probably had more screen time than Woody had in this movie. Hell, Blaze probably had more screen time in this movie than Woody and Buzz did combined. And yet Blaze was nowhere in the marketing whatsoever, which I don't have a problem with hiding characters in the marketing, but it very much shows Woody and Buzz are a main focus with Jesse, and that's simply just not the case.
Look, I'm not going to hound on it too much longer because it's pretty clear where we stand on this film. I'm definitely a little higher on it than you are. But, like, I think at the end of the day, this is definitely a film that it could have been better. They for you, it's probably an understatement, but they could have been, it could have been better. They could have done a lot better. But that being said, this is also Toy Story 5, and this is a film that I don't think anybody was asking for.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody asked for 4, and that came out, and I think... Screw it. Internet, hate me if you want. Toy Story 4 justified its reasons for existing. I think it completely did. I love Toy Story 4. But I think that 5, even though like the idea of it does justify its existence, the film itself doesn't justify its existence because it never, like, you could have just told any story about a kid and technology and losing creativity because of technology or whatever. You could have told any story of that. You just chose to make it a Toy Story movie to slap the brand of Toy Story on there, and so it just kind of...
That's the whole argument on, like, the reason they brought Buzz back is to bring parents to the theaters and make you care. But here's the thing. The main audience for this movie is kids, is it not? Kids are not going to care or have that much of an emotional attachment to Woody. So why did Woody need to be here? He didn't.
Because he's the face of Toy Story, and so they still technically need him in the film, though. Even if they write him out logically.
That's the thing. If they didn't get... Here's the thing. If they didn't send him off in 4, then yeah, I would agree with you. But the thing is, they send him off in 4, and then immediately undo that and make it not matter at all. And honestly, them bringing him back... makes me a little lower on Toy Story 4 now because I think Toy Story 4 really hit that emotional ending with Woody leaving the gang and finally stepping into his own and realizing that Bonnie doesn't need him anymore. And then he's immediately like, yeah, the idea isn't that Bonnie needs him, it's that Jesse and Buzz need him. I get that. But they didn't. They didn't need him at all. And
now, I do also want to point out, even I feel like I'm being lower on this film than most, because when you look at everybody who's saying something about this film, a lot of people love this film.
I haven't watched a single review. I've only spoken to a few people, but all the people that I've spoken to, they're not high on this film. They're like 5 out of 5 best Toy Story movie loving this film, which I think is absurd.
So look, and again, I looked after I watched this film. Critics are, I think it's like a 92% of Rotten Tomatoes, which is still high.
It's the lowest Toy Story film, but still a very high film.
Well, and again, that's when I'm going to harken back to what I said at the beginning. I still agree with that. I think that Toy Story has still yet to have a misstep. I think that Toy Story as a franchise is still just as good and is still probably the strongest franchise going today as far as consistency. This is definitely the worst one and the lowest film, though, and I think even critics on like Rotten Tomatoes are suggesting that. IMDb has this film, I think it's like 1 point lower than, I think it's Toy Story 2. So they have this one lower than Toy Story 2. Letterboxd has this, I think, 1 star lower than Toy Story 2. So, like, clearly we're being lower on this film than most everybody else is, because a lot of people apparently like this film. I think, all in all, this is a perfectly watchable film. If you're a fan of the franchise, go. I do think you will have a fun time, but this is also certainly nothing to ride home about, especially when you're coming off of the 16-year greatness that is Toy Story 3 and the almost 10-year gap with Toy Story 4.
Yeah.
You know, I just...
We're going to get another one of these movies when we're both in our 40s and taking our kids to go see it, and we're going to hate... No, like, the movie...
Yeah.
Talking about the few positives, the movie's well animated. It's very well animated. Soundtrack's good. It's a good Toy Story soundtrack. There is jokes, and I do think they hit a pretty good emotional stride at the end of this movie. I'm just so low on that first half that, like, I didn't care as much about the emotional payoff because I think the conveniences that lead to that emotional payoff just did not work for me. There was one other thing I was going to say about this before we wrap this up, and I'm kind of blanking on it now. God, what was it? It was something I really wanted to say. I don't know. If I remember it, I'll say it. But like, watching this movie, this is the thing that I walked away with this movie. When I walked out of this movie, I was certain everyone was going to agree with me. There are some films where I understand that people are going to be different on. Tron Ares is a perfect example of a film that I walked out of knowing that it was going to be divisive. I knew that some people were going to love it, and I knew that some people were going to hate it. I think Disclosure Day is another great example where I walked out of that film going, I know this is going to be a divisive film. There are going to be people who love it, and there are going to be people that hate it. When I walked out of Toy Story 5, I was pretty certain that I was going to be on the right side of history and that people were going to be pretty middling on this movie. So, again, I don't know what the reviewers are saying, but talking to people about this movie that I know that I talk to films about, I was shocked by not only the people that, like, enjoyed this movie, because that's fine. If you enjoy the movie more than me, that's fine. But the 5 out of 5, this is one of the best Toy Story movies, best films of the year conversation. Like, I'm genuinely shocked, and I do not understand what people are seeing in that.
Yeah. Yeah. But, Toy Story 6 and 7.
I hate you.
Can't wait for those to happen.
I hate you. You just had to do it, didn't you? You just had to do it.
Oh, I actually wasn't making... I'm going to be completely honest. You're smarter than I am. I wasn't even making the joke. I was just saying Toy Story 6 and 7. Like, can't wait for those movies to come out. I wasn't actually making the joke. So that's actually kind of on you for even bringing it up. I'm going to be completely honest.
Well, it's because your shenanigans last week. That's why I thought of it. Go watch last week's episode if you want to understand that. I am not excited for any Toy Story movie after this because I think that I have said this before and I'll say it again. The Toy Story trilogy, if it stayed a trilogy, would probably be my favorite trilogy of all time. I truly believe the Toy Story trilogy.
Well, it still can.
If it stayed a trilogy, it would be probably my favorite, if not one of the easily greatest trilogies of all time. And then they had to continue making them. And the unfortunate part is I know this movie is going to make $1 billion. It'll probably be one of, if not the highest grossing film of this year. And that's just going to tell Disney that people want to see more of this. And apparently people do. My thing is, I thought we all universally agreed that we didn't want more Toy Story after Toy Story 4. So now for everyone to be defending Toy Story 5 kind of pisses me off a little bit because I'm higher on Toy Story 4 than the majority of people. And even I was saying don't make more Toy Story movies. Most people don't like Toy Story 4 or are pretty damn low on Toy Story 4. And then they made Toy Story 5, which to me is a worse movie than I think this is the worst Toy Story movie. And if people are glazing the hell out of it and acting like now we need more Toy Story movies, like, where did you come from? I don't know. Like, that makes no sense to me. But yeah, I've said my piece. I could ramble on about this movie a lot more, just because I think that, God, why do you have to do this, Disney, Pixar? You had some good
money.
The mom in this movie's great. I think the mom's the go to this movie. Actually, I think she's a great mom. That
money.
Yeah.
I'm listing off the reason why it's
Blaze
called that.
Blaze is interesting. Kind of a neglectful parent, but Blaze is interesting. Granted, all the parents in these movies are typically pretty neglectful, except for Bonnie's mom. I don't know.
You're at a loss for words.
Yeah.
Let's just move on.
Yeah.
What's next week?
Next week.
I already know what it is. But what's next week?
Next week will be Supergirl. Very excited for Supergirl. And so just warning people. These episodes are recorded typically on a Friday or a Saturday. Sometimes a Sunday. We're trying not to do that anymore. We're trying to be as consistent as possible at getting these up on time. House of the Dragon. We're going to be reviewing it on this podcast. We are always going to be exactly a week behind because these episodes release. The episodes release the day these episodes come out, but we will have recorded them the day before they're released. So when our reviews go up on TikTok, when our reviews go up on the podcast, perfect example, House of the Dragon Season 3's first episode drops tomorrow. We will not be talking about that episode until a week and 1 day from now.
Right.
So we will be talking about House of the Dragon, but it'll be very similar to the problem that we ran into with Night of the Seven Kingdoms, where everything that we talk about on these episodes, we will always be one episode behind. It's just the way that HBO releases their shows. I don't understand why they like Sundays, but they do. But yeah, Supergirl. Can't believe that movie is already coming out. Insanely excited. One of my most anticipated movies of the year. I have high hopes for it. I think it's going to be very, very good. And then House of the Dragon, which admittedly I'm not very excited for. I'm watching it out of the kindness of my heart to Carson.
It's a hard watch for Brandon. So
I'll get more into this next week because I'm sure it'll come up when we review House of the Dragon. I loved. It's still probably top 2. I don't know if it's still top 1 because Maul Shadow Lord exists. But Night of the Seven Kingdoms is an incredible TV show. It is an incredible TV show. It's the only piece of Game of Thrones I've ever enjoyed. I've tried to watch Game of Thrones more than once. Did not really enjoy it. House of the Dragon is the most similar to Game of Thrones, and therefore I told this to Carson, and I'll put this online. I'm convinced that Game of Thrones exists for George R.R. Martin to live out his weird fetishes and have an excuse to watch them on screen. Because there's too much incest, there's too much child shit. It's especially in House of the Dragon, where it is a core mechanical plot line, is incest in arguably raping children, depending on your definition of rape. I think it's rape, what the king does with his second bride, because she doesn't want that. I don't think it's interesting. I like the politics, but yeah. So it's going to be a hard watch. We'll see if it gets better. I'm not even done with all of the first lead. I'll finish it by the time we review it. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way to prelude, which I'll probably repeat again next week. For House of the Dragon. But yeah, Carson, anything to close off this episode with?
So a lot of Hugh Jackman today. Or yesterday.
Yep. Haunt your
That's
dreams.
It.
Well,
it's Hugh Jackman. I don't know about haunting, but
he's a huge jacked man.
Yeah.
Man, he's jacked.
Yeah.
He is. He's ripped. Probably steroids. Definitely steroids, but he's ripped.
There's definitely steroids involved.
Yeah, you can't be. He's what, 60-something years old.
He's had steroids.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks good. Not gonna have a good effect on him. No. Yeah. Anyways, though, this has been another episode of the Nerdy Nimrods podcast, the only podcast on the internet where your two favorite Nimrods talk all things nerdy. I have been your host for today's episode, Brandon, a.k.a. Parrotfish, here with my forever host, Carson. You can find us on all social media platforms, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, anywhere you can watch or listen to your podcast, you will find us. You can find us on all social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. We are there. I'm hoping to start. I keep saying I hope to start posting more when I finally move back to Florida. I will start. I'm making the promise now. I'll be back in Florida starting in August. I promise you I'll be posting TikToks again come August when I finally move back to Florida. Carson is also going to get more involved. I think our content is going to look quite a bit different when I finally get down. We've already started having those talks. Very, very excited for that. Keep that in mind going forward. But this has been this week that'll be that week. And as always, stay nerdy.